Go ahead and join me in a seated position on your mat. You may want to have a couple of blocks handy. Once you find a comfortable seated position, soften your gaze or close your eyes and just begin to breathe in through your belly, your rib cage, and your lungs, and then let it all out. Continuing to breathe here, I'm going to read our scripture for this class today. Romans 12:2 in the Amplified Version says, "And do not be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually by the renewing of your mind, focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourselves that what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in His plan and purpose for you." Continuing to breathe, how are you arriving today? More specifically, how are your thoughts today? We'll be moving our body, but our minds and our bodies are not separate. We are one being. And so focusing on those thoughts, have they been encouraging, truthful? Have they been discouraging, anxious, lies? I wrote this practice with a need to ease growing anxiety in my heart and in the hearts of loved ones around me, realizing that it started with renewing my mind. I'm going to offer you this simple breath prayer that we will return to later, but you're welcome to use it throughout the practice. On an inhale, say simply within yourself, renewing from the inside out, renew my heart. Exhale, renew my mind. Inhale, renew my heart. Exhale, renew my mind. Keeping that simple prayer in your heart and your mind today as we move. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, hands to heart center. Inhale, full, arms up overhead. Exhaling, hands to heart center. Once more, inhaling, arms up overhead. Exhaling, this time placing your right hand down on the mat and leaning over, opening up in that left side body. You can remain still here, or you can move around, making space, taking inventory of parts that are sticky and may need more attention. On an inhale, arms back up overhead, and exhale over to your second side, opening in that right side body. And again, you can stay still here, or you can move around. Renew my heart, renew my mind. Inhale, arms up overhead, down to heart center. You can place your hands on your knees or your thighs. And we'll begin by lowering your chin to your chest, very gently, opening up in the back of your neck. And then you're going to take your chin and draw a line from your chest over to your right shoulder. Then begin to tip your right ear towards your right shoulder, going in a circle here. And then begin to tip your chin up towards the ceiling. So you're opening up in your throat. Over to your left shoulder with your left ear. Rotating that down, following that line from your shoulder back to your chest. And then do the circle in the opposite direction, towards your left shoulder. Back and around, opening up in your throat. Over to your right shoulder. And then down and around, back to your chest. Kind of wiggle that out. Now placing your palms so they're touching, kind of like prayer. You're going to begin to kind of rotate them out so that the back of your hands touch each other, and then they go back into palms like a circle. We're just waking up those wrist joints right now. After you've done that a handful of times, reverse your circle and go the opposite direction. Trying not to use a lot of your arm muscles, we're really just working on our wrists. Once you're done with that, place your hands behind you and kind of tip back so you can lift your feet up just a bit. Begin to rotate those ankles, wiggle those toes, wake up those feet. We use our feet a lot for everything in life, especially yoga. So it's nice to let them know that, hey, we're moving. Give them a little gentle hello. And then back into your seated position. We're going to do a seated spinal twist. So inhaling, arms up overhead. Then you're going to take your left hand and place it on your right knee, placing your right hand either to the side or behind you, and gently twisting in your upper and middle back. You can start by leading with your eyes, letting your neck and shoulders follow, and then work your way down. Inhaling, you grow tall. Exhaling, rotate a little farther if your body allows. If not, stay where you are. Waking up our spine. Making space. Can release that back to center, and we'll do it on the second side. So right hand on your left knee, left hand either to your side or behind you. Inhaling to grow tall, exhaling to rotate, starting with your eyes, neck, shoulders, middle back. Trying to keep your low back pointing forward so we're not pulling on our low back too much. I'm going to be kind and generous to that part of our back. Breathing. And release that out. Go ahead and find a tabletop position, hands and knees. And if you find that the angle your wrists are at is a little bit too much pressure, go ahead and move those forward a handprint or so. You can also try putting a blanket under there, blocks under the kind of the heel of your hands. Lots of different options there. We'll begin with our cow movement. So tilting your pelvis, that's kind of where your belt buckle would be if you had a belt on. Tipping that towards your thighs, lowering and releasing your belly towards the mat. Lifting up your chest, opening up in your throat. Lifting your gaze. This is your cow. And then on exhale, we'll just reverse that. So tipping that belt buckle up towards your belly, engaging that lower stomach muscles, arching in your back just like you're a cat who's frightened, arching in that middle back, shoulders, and then your chin tucking is the final move into your cat pose. Continue to move in cat-cow a few times on your own, at whatever pace your body is asking for today. Becoming aware and listening. I think the beginning steps of renewing our minds is paying attention to what our minds and our bodies are telling us. And not judging it, not immediately trying to fix it or say what a horrible person I am, and I can't believe I was thinking that, or where did that come from, or what's wrong with me? But just noticing and offering that up to God. Once you've finished your final cat, return to a neutral spine, back into that tabletop position. Then we're going to tuck our toes, bend our knees, and lift our hips into our first downward dog. Feel free to adjust however you need to so that you feel like you have a stable base between your hands and your feet. Hinging at the hips and not rounding in our lower back. We want to, again, be kind to that part of our body. So if you're feeling a lot of tension, try getting those hip bones up into the air. Finding length between your shoulders and your ears so we're not collapsing into our shoulders. You can pedal your legs out here or remain still. Holding for one more breath. Slowly roll into a plank pose and then step forward into a forward fold at the top of your mat. Here in forward fold, bending your knees as much as you need to. You can grab opposite elbows here, sway back and forth. It always feels releasing for me in my neck and my upper back. You can just hang there like a rag doll, whatever your body is asking for. On an inhale, placing your hands either on the floor, blocks, shins, or thighs. Lift halfway up so your back is parallel with the ground. And if that's not feeling comfortable for you, just lifting up somewhat is wonderful. Releasing that back down to a forward fold. Back up to that, we'll call it a half lift, even if you're not going halfway, no more than halfway. Release back down to a forward fold. Then once more, half lift. You might find you can go a little bit higher this time if you haven't been halfway. And releasing down to forward fold. This time very gently and slowly. Going to stand all the way up, taking your time. Welcome to place your hands on your thighs for support. Once you're standing all the way up, find yourself in mountain pose with either your hands at prayer or down by your side. In mountain pose is a great home pose, so if you need a safe place to be, just to check in with your breath, rest for a second. This is a great spot, as well as the tabletop we were in earlier. We want to check in with our body here, so our toes are pointing forward. Knees are slightly bent, they're responsive. Hips are pointing forward. Our pelvis is neutral, that belt buckle. Shoulders are up and down and relaxed. Hands are to your side or at prayer. Shoulders are under your ears and your chin is parallel with the ground. Gaze is forward. You should feel strong like a mountain. Take a moment here just to find our breath. And as you are finding your breath, answering this question, what thoughts have you been listening to? What ideas have you allowed into your heart? Can you offer those up to God? What thoughts have you been listening to? What ideas have you allowed into your heart? And can you offer that up to God? We are going to go through sun salutation here a few times. The first couple times, I will guide you through it visually and vocally, and then I'll give you some space to move on your own. When we reach points that are opening up our hearts, whether it's a back bend or a cobra or anything like that, try to see if you can hold it for just a minute longer, a breath longer, so you can offer that up to God with those thoughts, with those ideas, offering our hearts and our minds up to God. Okay, so on an inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, forward fold. Step back into a plank. You can remain in a high plank or place your knees down on the ground. And then slowly lower all the way down onto your belly onto the mat. Again, here you have some options. As you push yourself up into baby cobra, just a little bit of extending your chest up. Full cobra, as your chest would be up a little bit higher. Or you can do an upward facing dog, which would get your hips and your thighs off of the mat as well. Holding here just a moment longer to offer up our hearts to God. Release that back down to the mat. Going through table if you would like. Back into upward facing dog, or downward facing dog, excuse me. Holding here for a breath or two. Roll forward into plank. Step up into a forward fold at the top of your mat. Half lift. Release down to that forward fold. Rooting to rise, standing all the way up, arms up overhead, and then back to mountain. I'll talk you through this once more, and then I'll let you go through it at least once on your own, and then we'll meet in mountain. So inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Half lift. Forward fold. Step back into plank, releasing your knees down first if you choose. Lowering all the way down to your belly on the mat. Back bend of choice. Holding just a moment longer to offer our hearts up to God. Release, back down to the mat. Downward facing dog. Roll into a plank, step forward into a forward fold. Half lift. Release back down to forward fold. And then root to rise, standing all the way up. Arms up overhead. Back into mountain. Before you begin your own round of sun salutation, again, beginning to think about what thoughts and ideas you've been listening to and offering up those things to God as you move. Once you've completed your round, we'll meet back into mountain. And finishing up your sun salutation if you haven't already. Meeting in mountain. Finding that breath. Now we've thought about what thoughts and ideas have been in our minds of our own, or perhaps what other people have spoken over us. But what about what God is speaking over us? What truth is God speaking to you from the Bible? That's our ultimate source of truth. My husband's favorite verse, and it's a pretty well-known one, is Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. Allow that to be spoken over you. That you are fearfully and wonderfully made. That you are a treasure. That you are not forgotten, but you are remembered. That God rejoices over you with singing. That He delights in you. That He sent His one and only Son to die for you because He loves you. Hold on to those truths. Receive that truth in your mind and heart and body as you open up to Him while we move. On an inhale, reaching arms up overhead or remaining at heart center prayer, sit your hips back as if you're reaching for a chair, and this is called chair pose. Holding for a breath, and then release back up to standing. We'll do this chair pose 2 more times. So inhaling, exhale back into chair, reaching those hips back as if there's a chair behind you you're trying to get, and your knees might quite possibly go past your ankles, and that's alright as long as it's not causing any pain. Release back up to standing once more. Inhale, and then exhale back into chair. This time we're going to revolve the chair. You can stay in this chair that we've been doing, or you can revolve it. Hands at heart center or up above. Slowly starting with your eyes, revolve to the right side, just like we did when we were seated, just a little bit more heated now that we're standing. Turning your right shoulders, middle back, breathing here. Release back to center, and then revolve over to the left, starting with your eyes, shoulders, middle back. You'll be a revolving pro by the time we're done. Release back to center and forward fold. Let go of some of that heat. Then you're going to lunge back with your right leg. And then you're going to pivot so that both feet are facing the long edge of your mat. And if you go ahead and stand up, and you can rearrange your spacing between your feet so that you feel sturdy. Soft bend in your knees, hands on your hips. We're going to hinge on our hips and leaning with our heart, go into our wide-legged forward fold. If you like to use blocks here for your hands to rest on, that can feel nice. You can place your hands on your legs. You can place your hands on the floor. Just releasing some of that heat that we've built while receiving the truth that God is speaking over you. Okay, then placing your hands on your thighs, reverse that back up so you're standing back upright, and then you're going to point your toes towards the opposite end of your mat, so you're facing the opposite direction. And so we're back in that high lunge, and then step forward so you're at it would be now the back of your mat, in mountain. Okay, so now we're going to do that chair flow again. This time facing the opposite direction, renewing our mind, changing the direction of our thoughts. On an inhale, and then exhale, release back into chair. Inhale back up into standing. Inhale, and then exhale into chair. Try going a little bit deeper each time. Release back up. Inhale, exhale into chair, and this time we'll try revolving. Starting again, going towards your right, going with your eyes, your neck, your shoulders. Following your body's lead. If you're getting a red flag that says do not rotate any further, listen. The point isn't to see how far you can twist your body. It's just to open up in your chest, keeping those knees and hips forward. Return back to center and then revolve to the left. Keeping that lower body pointing forward. The only thing you're changing is the upper part of your upper body. Breathing. Back to center. Forward fold. Step back that right foot into a lunge. Arms up. And then we'll go into that wide-legged forward fold again. So pivoting your feet so they're facing the long edge of your mat. Slight bend in your knees. Hands on your hips. Hinging at your hips and leading with your heart. Bend all the way down. Again, using any support that you would like. The floor. Your body. Preferably not your knees. Blocks. You can try moving side to side. And as we're building this heat, it's in these moments of hard work, of effort, when we really find out what our thoughts are made of. When you really push comes to shove, what do you really truly believe about yourself, about God? And in these moments, can you offer that up to Him and receive the truth that He is telling you? We can't wait for things to be perfect in order to change our thinking. That's not how life works, unfortunately. It's in those moments when it's hard and heated, and I just can't do it anymore, that God says, I'm with you. I will never leave you or forsake you. You can do all things through me. So hang on to those as we continue to move. Hands on your thighs. Releasing yourself back up to standing. Then we're going to point ourselves back to where we started at the top of our mat. So pivoting up into that high lunge. Step forward at the top of your mat. Well done. Take a forward fold here. Ragdoll it out. Just let it all out. Loosey-goosey. And we're going to do this once more on both sides. I know that you're probably getting tired or your legs are probably on fire. Mine too. But as long as we are listening to truth, even if the truth is my body does need a rest, then we're going to be okay. Alright, here we go. Releasing back into chair. Forward fold. Or not forward fold, excuse me, mountain. Not a forward fold yet. Back into chair. Mountain. Chair once more. Revolving if you would like. This time we'll go to the left. Focusing on that truth. Not the lies, not the discouragement, but the truth. Breathing. Back to center. Rotate to the right. Back to center. Forward fold. Stepping back with your left foot this time into a high lunge. Finding stability here. Finding our footing, finding our truth. Pivot your feet to the long edge of your mat as we prepare for that wide-legged forward fold. Hands on the hips, hinging at the hips, leading with the heart. Go ahead and fold. It's in these poses like forward folds, mountain, table, where we feel a little bit safer, where we can find our footing. And when you're going through something where you just feel anxious or bombarded, find those moments, even for a second, to find your footing, to find your breath, to pray that breath prayer, renew my heart, renew my mind, to connect with God, even for a second, and He will help you. Release that back up, We're going to pivot to the back end of our mat. So again, we'll be facing the opposite direction of where we started. In that high lunge, step forward into a forward fold. Back up to mountain. This is your last round of chair. You are amazing. You're doing great. Release back into chair. Stand into mountain, chair, mountain, chair, revolving this time, starting with your left side. You know where we're going. You've been here before, and you've done it before. So you can do it again. Back to center, last side over to the right. That's how we build our faith. We remember what God has done, what He has brought us through, what we have been through because of Him, and we know that we can get through anything again because He's with us again. Back to center. Forward fold. Well done. Step back with your left foot into that high lunge. Then pivot your feet to the long edge of your mat. And we'll prepare for our last wide-legged forward fold. Hands on your hips, hinging at the hips, leading with your heart into a wide-legged forward fold. Well earned. Release the heat and tension. Just receiving the truth that sometimes is hard fought. But I feel like the truth that we have to fight for, to truly believe, to truly change our mind, is often the truth that becomes the most deeply rooted. And that's when you become unshakable in it, when it's been tested and proved true. Release that back up. Pivot into a high lunge facing the top of your mat, right where we started. And then step into mountain. Release into a forward fold. And then you can step your feet back into our table. Go ahead and do a few rounds of cat-cow here, just kind of releasing and rinsing out all that heat, all that tension that we've built up. Slowly begin to bring it back down. Physically, you're coming back down closer to the mat. Going to bring the energy down a little bit. Still some work to do. Once you've finished your few rounds of cat-cow, go ahead and stand up on your knees. I'm going to explore the shape of camel. Now personally, I'll be honest with you, this is not one of my favorite shapes, but I feel like sometimes that means that it's worth exploring. And maybe there's just something about it that I haven't found that I needed yet. And sometimes that's what we have to do with God's Word. That verse is hard, and maybe I just haven't found the truth in it yet that is really resonating with me. So we're going to do this camel together, opening our hearts to God. So there's a few ways that we can do this. One of the ways we can do this is placing our hands kind of where your back pockets would be. And as you're doing this, you're bringing those shoulder blades together, bringing those elbows together. And this is opening up your front chest here, opening up your heart. And you can stay right here. And this is awesome. This is camel. These shapes are just a framework that you can play in. So your camel is going to look different than mine because we are different people. And hopefully your whole yoga class and practice has been looking different than mine. Alright, so you can stay here, or you can begin to inhale and lengthen the spine up. And then as you exhale, tipping back a little bit farther, so we're going into a back bend. You can tip your chin up to the sky and opening up in your throat, opening up that truth that we speak over ourselves, speak God's word over ourselves and others. You can kind of tuck your toes and reach for your heels, maybe one hand at a time. At any point that you want to release out of this for either a moment or you're just done with it, just be slowly taking your time to get back to kind of that neutral, just standing up position on your knees. If you would like to take a cat spine, that curving to kind of do an opposite motion, that can feel nice. So just playing around in this camel. If you're the type of person that has a lot of mobility and openness in your spine and you want to put your feet flat on the ground and try to reach for them, you can do that. You can put blocks behind you and reach for those. Like I said, this is not a strength for me, and so it's something that I just have to keep slowly creating space for. I feel like that is the way God is with us, that we may not always catch His truth right away or the whole thing right away, but we just take it in little by little, creating more and more space until it becomes more revealed to us. So just continue playing and moving here. If you are done with it, go ahead and go back to cat and cow. If you don't want to do camel, you certainly do not have to. Again, cat and cow will get you similar effects. Take a few more breaths. But as you're playing and as you're moving in these poses, can you begin to sense the freedom that God is offering to you as you open up to Him? The freedom found in His truth. That just like these shapes are a framework for you to play around in, His truth is a framework for your freedom. It seems kind of contradictory, but when we know our boundaries, when we know the lines, there's so much more freedom in that. That He gives us big boundaries and big lines and big spaciousness because He knows what's best for us, and we can live freely in that and not have to worry about if we're doing something wrong or something terrible is going to happen. When we live in the framework of His truth, there's such freedom. So can you sense that as you are opening up to Him? Let's have everyone meet in table with a neutral spine. We're going to move into a locust position. So our last heart opener. Again, you're welcome to stay in cat-cow. You're welcome to go to child's pose. But if you want to do locust, you can lower down to your belly so you're flat on the mat. If your face flat down is feeling suffocating or just very uncomfortable for you or not safe feeling, you're welcome to turn your head to one side or the other. I'm going to do this bit by bit. We're going to build this up. Build up truth. We're going to build up the shape. So now on an inhale, you're going to slowly lift your face off the mat. That's it. Just your face. Everything else is laying, resting on the mat. Okay, release that back down. This time we're going to raise up our arms. Your palms are facing up towards the ceiling. So on an inhale, just raising your arms. Just seeing what this is going to feel like on all the different parts of your body. Releasing that back down. And then on your next inhale, we're going to lift up our legs. Trying to get all the way up to your thighs, lifting it up. Using those butt muscles. Try not to use your back muscles. It's not their job. And release that back down. Okay, so those are all the parts we're going to be lifting together. Alright, we're going to do this 3 times and then we'll be done. Opening our heart. On an inhale, lifting your head, your arms, and your legs. reaching those shoulder blades towards each other, pasting those legs together. One more breath. And release. Good. Take a breath here. 2 more times. Inhale, lifting them all up. Head, arms, legs. See if you can get a little higher than you did last time. Using your abs to help lift you a little higher. Ooh, and release that back down. Wonderful. Once more, friend. On an inhale, lift everything. Lift up that chest. Literally trying to lift as much of your body off the mat as you can. Releasing it, giving it all, offering it all up to God. And release back to your mat. Well done. Go ahead and roll over onto your back. And we're going to remain on our back. So if you would like to have a pillow behind your neck or a blanket, that could feel nice. Once you are ready, go ahead and lift your hands and your legs straight up into the air into a waterfall. Rotating those feet and those hands just like we did at the beginning. Releasing any tension. Finding the freedom not only in the effort, but in the ease and the softness and the strength. Placing your feet on the mat. Going to place your right ankle on top of your left thigh into a figure 4 position. You can stay here and you try rocking your hips side to side, or you can place your hands behind your left thigh and pull it towards you, pushing that right knee energetically away from you. You may feel this in your hips, in your thighs. You may not, that's okay. Even if you don't feel it, doesn't mean it's not doing something. I'm a hypermobile person, and so sometimes it takes a lot for me to feel like I'm doing something, but really I am doing something, and we don't always feel it right away. Can we release that back down? We'll do this on the other side. Right foot on the mat, left ankle on top of right thigh. Again, you can stay here if you'd like, moving around. Finding where you need to release those thoughts and ideas to make space for His truth. You can try pulling it back with your hands behind your right thigh. Moving and breathing like you. Release that back down. With your feet on the mat, you're going to slowly just lift your hips up just a little bit and put them over towards the left side of your mat so that your right hip is laying on the mat. Your knees over to the right, keeping your shoulder blades flat on the mat. And then you can turn your face towards the left so we have a spinal twist going on here. You're welcome to use your right hand on top of your knees if that helps. Moving in freedom. Release that back to the center, and we'll do this on the other side. So lift up into that just like a baby bridge. And then placing your left hip on the mat. Your hips are even over each other. Shoulders are flat on the mat as much as you can. Arms are out to a T. You're welcome to use that left hand to hold down your knees. Turning your gaze towards the right can feel nice. Releasing those truths, or those thoughts and ideas that are no longer serving you. Making space for the truth that God has for you. You can release that back and find any more final movements that your body is asking for right now. Whether it's growing long, pulling your knees to your chest, windshield wipering your knees back and forth, stretching out each side. Once you're done with your final movements, we're going to be setting up here for Shavasana, our resting pose. Now, Shavasana may seem like you're not doing anything, and for some people it's very difficult to just lay and do nothing. But it can be just as hard as the most strenuous pose we've done today. So go ahead and make this super comfy. So if you need to grab a pillow, you want to lay a blanket over yourself, grab a sweater. If you want to kind of bend your knees and kind of lay them out to the side and put your blocks on your knees, that can feel nice. If you'd rather sit up, maybe sit against something, this is really resting. So if you are sitting, making sure that you're not overworking your back. The idea is that you're just done the effort. It's time for the ease, time for the softness. Once you have found your dreamy Shavasana setup, go ahead and soften your gaze, close your eyes, just breathe. The work's done. Now you get to enjoy the rest. As you lay there, begin to trade the lies you've been weighed down with for the truth that sets you free and makes you new. I'm going to give you the next 5 minutes of silence to just rest in this freedom and this truth that God has for you, and then I'll bring you back with my voice. Begin to slowly deepen your breath. Coming back to your mat in this present moment. Feeling the mat and the ground supporting your body. Feeling your clothes touch your skin. Begin to add some gentle movement, wiggling your fingers and toes. Maybe gently moving your head side to side, starting small and growing a little bit bigger each time. Begin to move your arms and your legs. Fluttering your eyes open. Taking a few breaths, whether to roll over to your right side and then to sit up, rolling up. Find a seated position as we finish our practice today. Once you're in your seated position, soften your gaze or close your eyes once more, placing one hand on your forehead and one on your heart. And we will return back to this breath prayer that we started with at the beginning. On an inhale, renew my heart, and on an exhale, renew my mind. Inhale, renew my heart. Exhale, renew my mind. Once more, make this the prayer of your life today. Renew my heart, renew my mind. God, we thank you for your word and for your truth. We thank you that time and time again you call us to your truth. That you don't want us to be anxious and stressed and weighed down by the lies that surround us, that others have spoken over us or we've spoken over ourselves. But you give us your truth and it sets us free. So I pray that my friends who have practiced with me today would move in the freedom that is found in your truth as you renew our hearts and renew our minds. Lord, I pray that these friends would go forward in peace, in love, and in joy. Amen.